Welcome to this week's Art Wisdom podcast with Chris and Kat. And this week we're talking about holding a art exhibition, which me and Kat did one together a few years ago, and that was heaps of fun. So art exhibitions can be great fun. I suppose the first thing to think about is what you want to put in it. What art do you want to display? What story you want to convey? And I'd say start thinking about these things maybe 6 months, 12 months out. Actually, 12 months, a lot of galleries and that, probably even more, some of them have a longer booking schedule. And there's lots of places like council run places as well that you can have smaller exhibitions, but they will start booking at least a year in advance.
I didn't know that. Gosh, that's a lot of planning.
Well, it's just to get yourself in, and I suppose that leaves you the amazing opportunity then that you've got actually a year to think about and start creating your pieces.
Because that's true.
The first thing you got to think about is, how many and what size, because you've got to go out and buy the canvases before you even start painting.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important to talk about first, like there's different types of art show and exhibition and like what they all mean and how they kind of run. So obviously you mentioned council exhibition. So do you want to go over that one first?
Well, lots of places these days, like the arts, I feel is looked after quite well in these small communities. And like I'm traveling around at the moment, and everywhere I go has an art gallery. I know, and lots of the places as well have studios for artists. It's amazing. So quite a lot of those places you can hire out. So you can go to the local council and, oh, you shit, you're frozen. Oh, you're back. You froze for a little bit.
That's okay.
I'll just go to your local councils and find out what the criteria is for putting on an art show. So that's the council ones. I think even libraries might have them as well.
Yeah, obviously, I do think it obviously depends on what country you're in as well. So it is worth Googling, if there are like, government-based, council-based events, or if there are, public buildings like libraries and that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of ones that are in private galleries. Now, they kind of work often in two different methods. The first method is that you just hire the room. It's a room for hire. You hire it, book it in advance, and you fill it with whatever you want at the time. Or ones where you don't necessarily hire it, but they may take a big portion of commission of your actual painting sales. So you have to weigh up. I think that when we did them, I think we just hired a room because we've already got an established audience, both of us, for our art, and we were just about bringing people in. Yeah.
And I know it sounds like when you say council buildings, but these buildings are magnificent.
Beautiful.
This one was like all repurposed woods, and it was a beautiful building that it was in, and there's so many like that as well. So you can have a beautiful space, and most of the council ones, they don't cost you much as well because they want to support the local artists. So it's a great way to kick one off if you've never done one before. And if you've never done one before, get in collaboration with somebody as well who has done one. Because that just makes it more fun as well, because
it does make it more fun.
Because it could be quite stressful if first one you're doing and you think, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been in lots of joint ones before that, so that definitely gives you a little handle on what to do. But like it's more full on when it's just one or two people, because there's a lot to do, isn't there?
There is. Yeah, those group exhibitions are really good fun, and especially if you can find people that are like, see the similar audiences or like similar styles that you can come together. And also it's a great place to actually meet people, not just collectors, but, get to know the other artists as well in your field. So outside of obviously like those kind of things, there's also art shows, which you've been part of. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Art shows. It's very similar to exhibitions, really.
Art shows more like a group exhibition often.
Yeah. So, and I suppose with things like that, you don't have to do anything towards it. You just turn up with your artwork, and if you get in the art, you have to apply, send photographs, make sure they're really good photographs so you can actually get in the exhibition, because even before COVID, a lot of these exhibitions get so many people that they just want photographs. Some you still turn up with your work and leave it with them for a week. They'll have a look at it, see if you're in or out. But once you're in, you don't really have to do anything. They'll hang you work, they'll do everything, and you just turn up on opening night, and that's very nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also outside of that, there's art fairs. So what's an art fair?
The art fair, like Saatchi has an art fair. The other art fair is that called art? That's a Saatchi.
It is the other art fair, yeah.
The art fair, Saatchi Art Fair. That's right.
That's correct.
Then, there's another one as well, isn't there? I'm trying to think. Big ones.
There's a lot of different art fairs around. Depending, there's the affordable art fair as well, which is one that's quite common all over.
That's what I'm trying to think of as well. And those things are the same. They have a big application form you have to fill in, with your bio, your pictures of your artwork. It's all there. You have to fill the whole thing in, send that off, and see if you're accepted. And sometimes it may not be your art that you're not accepted for. It might be like the theme that they're running for.
Right. And and also the thing about art is it's personal taste too. So
the judges still have personal taste, don't they?
Right, that's right.
A lot of other artists who say, if you're a portrait artist, they might go, oh well, we've got half a dozen of them, we need to get half a dozen of landscape, we need to get, we don't know while they'll pick us. So it's like, don't be downhearted if you don't get in. There's next year, or there's another art fair as well. It's like all this stuff we talk about, isn't it, Kat? Don't take it personally.
No, never do.
You're never going to do anything.
I think one thing that's really important to talk about, though, is that some of these different things are probably better for artists than others, because some of them are, they're all for-profit businesses, and sometimes the profit they're making is actually off your application fees. So I've seen a lot where they try to get as many applicants, knowing fair well that they're not going to have that many people on. So I think that looking up at the history of the event and understanding how it works, because some of those aren't actually, they're going to pour a lot of time and effort into them, and they're not going to be quite right for you at all. So that's something to pay a lot of attention to. And also when it comes to selling your work in an actual gallery itself, which is slightly different from an art show and exhibition, is just to be aware of what percentage people are taking of your work, especially if you're not only painting it, doing all the materials, the transportation, setting it up, and of course then if you're bringing the clients in as well. So it's really important.
The other art fair, you are doing all of that as well. They do take a chunk of it. There is nearly all of the time an application fee to these things. So you've got to be, certain that there's something that you want to do, and you've got really good work that you're sending to them and really good photographs to give you the best chance, because you don't want to apply for it and not get in, and you're paying the fees. It's like, be sure you're part of it. But you have to get all your gear there. You have to actually, there's like the last one I did, they set up the wall either side, just like that.
Yeah.
And then you have to hang everything, and if you want to put rails on it, if you want to, however you want to hang it, you've got your support to do that. But there's a lot of work in doing that and making that nice. And then they take a percentage of that still,
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's one of those things where it could get you to connect with a really important collector that might be someone that will be buying a bunch of stuff from you, or it might be giving you an opportunity to sell stuff that you haven't been able to sell up until that point as well. And sometimes it's just good to be, have a bit of an adventure, in particular with the other art fairs. And actually, I feel like the affordable art fair as well, it's all over the world. So, you could choose to be in Hong Kong, or you could choose to do it in Sydney, or you could choose to do it in London, or whatever it is. Obviously, bear in mind, you've got to take your artwork with you. But if you could, it's a good little adventure. And especially if you want to break into a market in a particular region, that's quite helpful, I think.
Yeah. And they bring all the audience to you. So that's something like a lot of artists struggle with, is getting the people to their art exhibitions. So at least with this one, you may be paying when you sell a decent commission to them, but they've done all the marketing and they've brought all the people in, and they do tend to bring quite a lot of crowds in from what I've seen. So that's amazing to have crowds of people at your exhibition.
I've heard I don't know what the exact statistic is, but I know that the majority of art sold in the whole world is actually in art fairs, outside of auction houses. So that's something to consider.
To look them up and have a look. As you say, they're all over the world. So, that's probably a really good way to have an exhibition, really, isn't it? Because they bring the people to you.
Right. Unless, of course, anyone listening to this has already got a very well-established audience of people. Because I suppose also there's like different intents in why you want to put an exhibition on. Sometimes it's just literally getting a sale and just that. But in our case, when Chris and I were doing an exhibition, it was kind of more to have a good old party, or at least that was my intent.
Well, I think it's actually a really great intent for an exhibition, because you're more open to going, oh, I must invite these, must invite them. It's not like, oh, it's about my art. It's like, we're gonna have a great fun, happy, party time here, so these people need to be there as well.
Right. And it was very vibrant and very exciting and very fun, as and we had like an opening party and a closing party, and I think we had a party halfway through just because. And
and I knew somebody who was in a little band, and so they came along and played and that. So like, as an opportunity as well, if you've got any talented friends.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's a great to be able to put on our performance and make it an actual, make your show something really spectacular and fabulous. Like, I always love to have a guest speaker, obviously do the nerdy stuff, but we've had lecturers on quantum physics. We've had people talking about astrophysics. We've had all these different interesting things. And also, lots of food and drink as well to go along with it. And I just love that. I feel like it's an opportunity, not just because here's the thing, right? Your artwork is a method of communicating a message, but you can add to that message. So for instance, if your artwork is talking about, let's say, feeling safe in the home, you might have someone talking about their lived experience and how they overcame it. Or you might have someone there that's an interior designer doing a talk on interior design because you're so passionate about making people's homes comfortable. Or your thing might be about like painting birds and nature, and your thing might be, let's get someone in that knows lots and lots that can share their insights and all their fun stuff that they've ever done on the animal side of things. Or, people talking about, I've got an amazing friend, Damien, who taught me how to do airbrushing, although I am not great, but he is incredible. And he does all the football players. And how great would it be to have an exhibition with all the football players and then get a coach in, or get someone in that's related to a football team, or, and just make it so that it brings the crowd. And then you're adding value to what you're doing. You're sort of sharing your passion for whatever it is. That's what I love about events, is that it gives you a platform to do stuff like that, which, you can do through social media, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. And even though with that, you've got a large social media following, most of the people weren't social, because it's a local thing as well. People who came to it were people who were local, who knew us, who connected with us personally. So I don't know how you'd go really relying on social media. You have to get yourself out there and get your community going. But tell you what, like, people love to be asked to do things as well, don't they? Because we asked a lovely friend of ours to be the MC. He did a
Yes,
fabulous job.
that was amazing.
It was great to end up with his dicky bow, and he's only a young bloke.
It was great. I forgot about that. That was great.
And so it was lovely having him involved. A bit of fun with that. And then you just rang the university, didn't you, to ask somebody to come and speak?
Right, I did. I called the head professor at astrophysics, and they recommended an incredibly bright student, Kat Ross, who's now studying her PhD to become a doctor herself. And she was so full of passion and so full of vigor and so excited about the topic. Because often I think, like, as artists, we cover a lot of niche subjects, right? And but there are also people that are specialists in those areas, and they don't, it's not often you get a platform to talk about this stuff in front of people. So I think it's amazing that you can put on a whole show, and people just love to be involved, and like, not just with the entertainment or the emceeing, but Brian, your partner, came and helped hang all of the pictures, and he's very good with the spirit level.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit like, get them up, it's fine, but he was like an accurate, so he was so good for us, wasn't he? So
it was amazing. I must say that small details like that, like all your paintings being a little bit wonky and crooked, and it's not a good look if you really want to be putting forward what is your best work. So even just the effort to make sure you've got all the appropriate tools. Now most gallery spaces will have like hangers or adjustable hangers, but you need to be able to make sure you've definitely most certainly have a like hammer and nails. I don't know if you need them, or like blue tack, lots of blue tack, lots of double-sided tape, like the ability to write on nice cards, or if you've got a label making machine, even better, having spirit levels, all like having picture wire and screwdrivers and screws so you can like hang your pictures if that doesn't work out. All of that stuff is like a necessary toolkit if you're going to be going in and setting up yourself.
That printer with the labels, that was fantastic. That I'd highly recommend anyone to get that, because it looked amazing, and then we could write quotes,
just type stuff up. And you could just copy and paste stuff from your Instagram or wherever you've posted the relevant stuff. And then I was using I don't know, it's a Dymo 4XL label printer, but you can use any type of label printer, but it just adds a little, because the thing is obviously it's nice to admire the work, but people actually need to have it mostly explained to them. Like, even if you think about it, no one even sees your work online without the explanation, because there's always a description to the photograph. So, obviously you don't have that. So it's important to make sure that that's included, because I think that context is king. I know that there are plenty of artists out there that are like, I just want the audience to interpret. But even if you don't want to say specifically, because you had abstracts, right? We didn't say this is this, but you put meaningful things next to them that hopefully inspire a train of thought, but definitely don't define exactly what it is. And that was a lot of fun. I think you had So you want to talk about the survey, because you did a survey. What was the survey like? And you asked people what to call the pieces or what they saw in them. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, because it's like you want people to stay around, but sometimes when you go into an art gallery, you go, oh, you've whizzed around, you've seen it, and you want to find something to connect with people when they come in, because for me, I don't want to just go, hello, how you going, have a look. It just didn't feel like I wanted to do more than that. So with the abstract work that I had, I didn't put any names on them, and then I had a sheet which was like, they were all numbered, and it was like, what do you see when you look at this art. And people
I
write
think that's
out all these
amazing.
things that they've seen and that, which was amazing for me as an artist, because people were saying things that, you know, one I seen as a phoenix, and they were writing other things about it. And I was thinking, oh,
It
wow.
looks like a golf cart. You're like,
Totally
really?
things that you think, how have they seen that? But you know, that's the interesting thing about abstract art. And it was great because when you actually, you know, talk to people, they might say what they think, but just having a little fun game where they could write it down
It was
was
great.
much easier, where, you know, no one was, you know, no one was on them. It was in their own time and their own space.
Right. And
Um,
it was just a lot of fun. I think that element was really fun. Like we had lots of fun little things that we were doing in our exhibition. Next to each artwork, there was a little hook and there was a little key, and it was the key to the artwork, and it was literally a brass key. Actually, I think it was a bottle opener. So
oh, was it?
practical. Yeah,
Oh,
they were both of them.
oh,
They look like little
perfect
ornate
little
keys.
key. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was actually a bottle opener, but whatever.
I
And
didn't even
next,
know that.
and it had a little label on it, and obviously the label had the price and all of that stuff, but you could tell because behind the key was the red dot. So when a key was removed, of course, so for anyone that hasn't run an exhibition, is that when a piece is sold, you put a little red sticker on it to let people know that this piece is no longer available. But we had them hidden behind the keys so that it was sort of automated. It was great fun.
Had to bring the key when they bought the piece of art, so they, you know, it was like a little something for them as well that
It's
they
nice.
got. Yeah. And I had quotes. I don't know whether you did. You might
You
have had
did have quotes.
I had
Yeah, I
quotes
remember
next
that.
to each artwork, which was something, because they were abstract, and abstract artwork to me is like, you know, they just come from nowhere. So as you're painting, things just happen and you're just going with the flow with it. So it's like they're not even my artworks, they've come from elsewhere. So these
The
quotes,
subconscious artworks.
sorry.
The subconscious artworks.
Yeah. So the quotes were to do with all of that kind of thing. And that was great because people would come up and want to talk to me about the quotes as well, and about
Right.
that, you know, that kind of subconscious kind of thing, which is like, I'm so into anything like that, you know. So it was had some great conversations with people, not just about the art, it was about well, it was supposed to be creating and how you feel, and you know, where does it come from? Who knows? And
Right.
conversations like that was fab.
It
Yeah.
was really good. That's one thing, is that when you are with your artwork in physical, firstly, it's a whole different experiencing in artwork in person, and that's what I really love about having these shows or exhibitions, and especially for your work, Chris, because your work is incredibly textural, and there's a dimension that can never be picked up on camera. Or, I mean, as much as you try, it's just not the same,
No.
so.
So it's great
And
that people, you can actually get them into feel and, you know, want to touch the things. And
I so desperately wanted to touch everything, but like deep down, I was like, don't touch the artwork. Don't. I was trying to put my hands on everything. But it is like also like the way that an artwork looks, like there's colors that just don't come out on the screens, as you know, and especially when you're layering all these layers of transparent colors one over the top of them. It just, you don't get the same sense. That's why I really like it. But also, I think it's not often you have like a really meaningful conversation around your artwork, as you said, right? You had all these things to inspire the conversation, but as artists, that's actually what we need sometimes, is having a face-to-face conversation about the things that are really important to us.
Yeah, because that inspires you to keep going as well, doesn't it? Because you
Right.
think, wow, it means a lot to me, actually means a
Mm.
lot to him as well, because we're, you
Yeah.
know, and you think, oh, that's really important. Yeah.
So what is the worst exhibition you've been to or show? No, don't name any names, but what was it that made it not great?
Traveling around, I go to everyone and anyone, you know, I'm in and out. I suppose for me it's when they're not great artworks, and it's like, because the one I went to, there was great artworks in there,
Yeah.
but there was a lot that weren't. So it was obviously maybe just a free for all, but you didn't sort of get that, you know, up front, that you sort of think, for me, I'm thinking it's one or the other, because when you've got really talented work there, and then you go into some others and they're really not, and they're like, $50 and $100, it
Right.
doesn't sit right with, it doesn't feel right to me that people are doing that. Like, if you've got outstanding work and you want to put a price on it, set yourself up there, put yourself up there, and don't mix with the ones that are
Oh,
starting off, learning their thing, or just not as into it as you are, and will
yeah.
give it away for $50. That really,
There's a lot to be said for that. The placing yourself correctly. I often talk to a lot of artists who put themselves on Etsy, and it's a platform that I personally don't sell on, and I don't necessarily like it as a platform because it's a race to the bottom. And I think that when you place yourself, you really want to be placing. No, bear in mind, it's like there's nothing wrong with being with people that are new. It's just that it's not good if there is this massive price discrepancy. So you really want to be in and around plus or minus, a couple hundred or whatever dollars of where you normally sit. You don't necessarily want to be the absolute different ends of the spectrum, and it's not helpful for either of you, actually, as it turns out. But you really,
I suppose it's like a sports players. You don't play in a league that you don't, that you just not, you can't compete in. You get categorized, don't you? So if you're a good sports player, you don't play with the ones who can't play, because your ability goes down, really. Things go down. So you play in a field that takes you up.
it's interesting, yeah. But also, I would say that people definitely need to not underprice themselves. And I think that's almost more important, because obviously art is subjective and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But, I feel like if you're really taking this seriously, make sure you surround yourself with similar people.
Yes.
And also value your own artwork. If you're the person selling your pieces for $50 to $100, stop it. Because of course,
unless you're starting off, and
well, it's a good place to start. And I think I've definitely sold one or two pieces at that price, but I definitely feel like you can grow out of that phase very quickly, or at least you should grow out of that phase quite quickly. Because also, here's the thing, is that you can always offer cheaper versions of products. You can always have prints along with your originals. And there's always a variety of things that you can offer, so that you do have a good range of things at lots of different price points. That's very important. But yeah, I think that the majority of times I talk to people, and I really don't think this necessarily applies to people that are brand new, because at the end of the day, you're just testing the waters out, and that's fine. Find other new people to start off with and have a good time, or people that have been around for a little while. But ultimately, I feel like most of the time when I talk to artists that are in the struggle mindset, they've been painting for 3 to 10 years and are still selling for pieces that are competing with Target, or they're trying to compete with like stuff that you would get mass produced. If you're trying to compete on that level, you'll never win, because they can always outproduce you. They can make it cheaper, because it's not about art. That's about making a wall decoration, which is quite a different thing, really.
Yeah. And with that as well, that I think that it's disposable, and I wouldn't want to see my art a year down the track, out on someone's front yard waiting to be picked up by the rubbish thing because they paid $50 for it.
Right.
So it's not, the value is not there, is it? People, it's just like, move on, had that, I didn't pay anything for it, throw it out. And you think, I put so much work, effort, experience, passion into that I wouldn't like to see that happen. So that makes me go, well, I'm going to charge more, because I don't want somebody doing that.
Right. You know what? That's a good point, right? And I mean, I think that's important for exhibitions, not just that you sit yourself in and amongst peers, but there's nothing wrong with you choosing to put your prices up and choosing to sit with someone, that's fine. Do
Mm,
it. But yeah, obviously art is very subjective,
mm,
but eh, and I would say there's this definite divide between what's art and what's craft. Mark Rothko's produced these big blocks of color, but the cheapest piece you could get is $50 million. And
wow.
that's if you're lucky, right? So it's not easy to, but but his whole thing was he was just so passionate about color. He would layer all these different colors and different tones all over the top of one another because he wanted to give people such a pure experience of color, that it would make them cry. He was just so passionate, and he was trying to create all these different levels of emotions just in pure color.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's just like, oh, it's a block of color. Is that good art or bad art? The thing that really is the art is the message that goes behind it.
Mm,
It's not the specific craft. Now, bear in mind, I would say that if you are doing a joint exhibition, that you do want people that are, you don't have to be the same, but you have to be similar-ish, either similar audiences or similar, because I think that, if you had a joint exhibition with like three very abstract people and then one person that does hyperrealism, it's going to not, the whole exhibition is not actually going to gel together that well.
mm,
I don't know what you think, but
mm. Yeah, it's good to get the theme running through the exhibition, so it makes sense when people walk in. So, like an exhibition, you, if you've got a few good friends, you need to rope them in and to help you out, because you do need quite a few people to help you, even if there's two of
mm,
you running it, like someone at the front, because if you're talking to people going around the room on the night of your exhibition and then you sell one, it's really good if you've got somebody else who's already set up and can do that process for you.
mm.
And
One thing that, on that note of making payments, one of the things that I think is really helpful is just to offer a deposit system. So, if people want a piece that they only need to deal with a couple $100, or, depending on like how much the piece is, of course, right? But making it so that it's a manageable chunk for people, rather than them having to come in and all of a sudden there's $2,000 or $3,000 that they have to pay up front. And making it easy for people, like we've spoken about, we're in the age of QR codes now, where you can have a QR code which even takes people to a payment gateway
yeah,
for a piece. Like you can have it set up to a Shopify store, even if it's just for the deposit. There's lots of different things, but I think removing the friction from sale when you're doing one of these events is really important.
yeah, but just asking that, because when we
Mm,
had our exhibition, the ones who sold it was, do you want me to deposit or the full amount? And they were just, oh, just do the full amount,
full
because that
amount.
was obviously easier for them, because they don't have to bother doing the payment thing again. So it's,
That's
don't
right.
take it for granted just to go, oh, I'll just ask for a deposit. Don't take that for granted, because people will,
Yeah.
might find it easier just to say, no, that's fine, just do it, because they
But
bought it, so they've made the commitment
yeah.
already. So, but you can ask either way and whatever suits. So someone for the payments is really handy.
Mm,
That can tie you up a little while doing that. Even if you walk over with them and you're there and it's really exciting when somebody comes up and says, I want a piece. So you spend a bit of time with them, and
yeah.
then you can let somebody else do the process. And then having somebody to go around taking photographs is really handy.
Oh, of course. Yes, I forgot about that. So important. It's so lovely the next day, being able to look back at those memories. And also, like, it's another thing that you can put on your social media that brings everyone back, where they can tag themselves or they can start the conversation again after the exhibition's finished.
Yeah, and on videos as well, if they're keen to do videos. We had a guy who was a photographer who was coming to the exhibition, and he said, oh, I'll take photos for you, and that, didn't he? So that was fabulous as
That
well.
was awesome.
So having good
Yeah.
friends is great.
That's right. Cultivates a good friend. So, Chris, what are your top 3 things on how to set up and run art shows and exhibitions?
My first one I'd say is plan everything, because we went through the whole list of everything that he's done, and we ended up having an actual spreadsheet of who was doing what, dates, times, monies, everything was on a spreadsheet. So because you can get, overwhelmed with it all. You've got the paintings to do. So besides from that, you've got all the socials and the invites to do to people as well. So if you can plan everything out on a spreadsheet, even when you're going to make posts, when you're going to email your email list and all that thing, and you've got to get somebody in maybe to cater as well. So there's things like that. If you can do a spreadsheet of the whole thing, that's just going to make you feel amazing and so organized and more relaxed. Number 2, I'd say collaborate. Just because it's a lot of fun. It takes the pressure off you trying to think of everything and make sure you've got it done. You're cross-checking between the two of you. You've got the 2 audiences, 2 lots of friends to come in. So collaboration, I think 2 is great. 2 or 3 is great. When it gets to a big show, you've only got a couple of pieces in. Like, it's really nice if you're going to have an exhibition, have lots of work in, give yourself the best opportunity to sell. And the third one is actually to do with the artwork itself, because when it comes down to the crunch of it, for me, I had lots of edges to do, lots of strings to put on, and it was like, oh gosh. So I would highly recommend, when you finish a piece and it's dry, go back to it, do the edges, do the string, it's completely finished, and move on. Because like at the end where you're just going through it all and you've got 20, 30, 25 paintings to put strings on and do edges, it's really boring. So get that done as it goes through, and then that's my tips. What's yours, Kat?
That's great. I really like the planning one. Now, it's funny because like when I do my launch a store online, we actually have a launch checklist, and then we have a checklist of everything we need to set up, and it's pretty much the same every time, to be honest. And I bet, if someone Googled it, you could probably find an exhibition checklist. But also it's like the few hours before you launch checklist. So just check that nothing is, everything is going on schedule. But yeah, anyway, my top 3 things are: start selling before the event. Obviously, when you're making those pieces, that's the time in which to start generating excitement around this upcoming event. Share the videos of you making the pieces, document it, go live even if you must, take photographs, post it all up, tell people to join an email list, get people mentally prepared for this event. And if you're doing it a year in advance, that's fantastic. But at very minimum, 3 months before you start, your actual event, you need to be online and you need to start the selling process beforehand. I would say, people often have to see those artworks 32 times before they make the commitment to purchase. They're not going to see them 32 times. Well, they might walk around 32 times. It's probably unlikely. So people often come to these exhibitions kind of with, and obviously if you want to have 1 or 2 very special pieces that are a surprise, and that's part of the draw, if you're, have a very, a good audience that follows you a lot, that's also fine. Make sure that people know that that's happening, that you've got surprises in store for them. But yeah, start selling before the event. I think one of the things that can be hard for people is when you do these events and nothing sells, or, because they've not gone and done that prep work before and got people ready and excited. People, they're just seeing all this stuff for the first time. It takes a bit of time to make a decision on an art piece. So, start selling before the end. And that also includes making a little brochure to go out that explains all the different pieces and sharing the excitement of what you're doing. We did videos from inside the exhibition of us all setting up and all of that stuff. I mean, it's not just promotion for people coming to the event, but, you just start selling before the event, get people ready and mentally prepared. And I think once you then have the event and then start making sales within there, it creates this sort of excitement and sort of buzz around it, rather than it being, awkward and not having any of those sales go through. So I think that is one of the things, that's probably one of the main things I would say. That's my number one. My number two is have fun, because this is an amazing opportunity to actually meet face to face with people that you care about, you like being around, and people that are into the stuff that you're doing as well. So have fun, and like, don't be scared to think out the box, whether you want to use a little key to sell your artwork, or if you want to have a quiz to see what people think those artworks are, or whether you want to have a speaker or whatever it is, make it an event that is fun. Now, obviously, I know some people's artwork is somber, but even that can have things that are entertaining, of entertaining value, right? So have fun. Number three is get help from friends. You will be surprised. It's funny because, like, even in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just an exhibition. You just hang a few art pieces up, stick a few labels on, that's it, right? But when you get to it, there is so much. Oh my gosh. Like, I hadn't really truly anticipated, even now, and I've been through it a few times, even now my brain's like underestimating how much needs to be done. There's a lot of work in it. Every single art piece, as you said, needs to make sure it's wired, or has the hanging string at the back. It needs to all be level and set up. You need to organize it. You need to physically carry them in. You need to like all of that stuff, even down to like pointing the lighting in some cases. Now, obviously, I know that, sometimes you'll be in a group exhibition where all of that stuff is done for you, and that's wonderful. But when you're doing it yourself, I think that making sure that you're not underestimating it, and getting it done as early as possible, because often you have like a ship-in date where you've got all your stuff, you've got to get set up, and then you have your launch day. So obviously, I would definitely say don't get your launch day on the same day as ship-in day. I feel like having a day break in between, whatever that is helpful, because there is always unexpected things. But lighten the load. Get someone that's great at hanging pictures, get someone that has, is good at even graphic, even having people help doing the promotion stuff at the beginning, because you're all hands on deck that night before, or the 2 days before, you're like working flat out. So you're trying to like hammer in a painting up here, text someone to come, and you type in an email out here, and you're trying to post on social media all at the same time. So definitely lighten the load. Those are my top three things. Any other final thoughts, Chris?
It's just so true what you say, because even now you think, oh, it's not that much to it. That's fine.
Easy.
But it's so much. It's so busy, isn't it? And it's, you're trying to be relaxed, and you think, oh, gotta do this, gotta do that. Yeah. Selling beforehand, like selling before, it's not even selling, it's just putting your pictures up there, letting people know. And that's, I sold one beforehand, and I think I sold it beforehand because the exhibition was coming up, and he knew that there's a chance it was in the exhibition. So, and he couldn't come, he was in Melbourne and we were in Sydney.
Right.
So it's like, he had to buy it before if he was keen, and he was keen. So he bought it before the exhibition, which was like, oh my God, this is brilliant,
But that's amazing, and there's nothing wrong with having paintings sold prior to the event, and then it's such a great feeling to be able to, for people to look around and see that actually there is a level of demand, because I think that's proving demand is quite important.
Oh, it's fabulous. Yeah, it makes you feel good. You think, oh my God, get off right.
Right. So I love all of that. But also I think just a final thought from me is just be aware of the expenses and, the costs of these things, and, your level of success, and what, because there are a lot of, I would say, relatively unscrupulous people. Like, I've seen exhibitions that are like competition shows where, they get to keep the artwork if you win, but the prize money is very low. And there's a lot of stuff like that where I just think, make sure you read the fine print on everything and make sure it actually does benefit you. Obviously it's a bit different if you're hiring a room and you're doing your own event, that's all on you. But with a lot of the other things, just make sure you read the fine print.
Nice.
All right, well, Have you got any more questions about how to set up your own art show? Please tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. As always, our social links are down below in the description. Make sure you give us a follow so you can catch future episodes. The next episode, we are going to be talking to a special guest to mastermind their art business. And we'll catch you next time.